Hello again. It's Mr. C of Iroko Critic. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club podcast. On to episode 17, if you can believe it. This is a fun conversation, and I say this in relative to the previous episode. I know this discussion is a discussion about a film dealing with uh, death, but much more fun than Aki and Popo, regardless. Um, an independent film. It is written, produced, directed, and starring the same person. Uh, I am amazed at the bravery of doing all of those parts. I'm not always saying this is a good idea, by the way. I'm sure this is due to cost. This is usually how things work, especially in Nollywood. In order to save cost, if you can do something, you just take it on. But honestly, for something that took on this, for, you know, for the mammoth task, I thought this did okay. It has its issues, but you hear that whilst you listen to Nollywood Film Club discussing Tainted Canvas. Let's get on our way. Since you're our only speaker at this point, do you want to start us off with the things you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, just that I did not have be the first person to speak.
You've beaten Elizabeth for the first time.
I don't know why should I request it. Okay, so Tainted Canvas, what I enjoyed. First of all, I liked the Aze's character. Okay, so when they introduced that in the UK shop, I was like, I'm not going to like this character, this movie. But when Mariah urinated and she was calm, gave her the pajamas. I think that was also one of my favorite scenes in this movie. I liked it. Then I also like the gisting over coffee when she was like, "Oh, I know you're hiding something and all this stuff." I was just disappointed that a character was cut short because I later put my mind in I'm going to see a family and friendship bond kind of movie. But when she went to Lagos and it was just only one call and that was it. That was the last time we heard from Izzy. I was hot. I was disappointed and yeah, I was angry. She was my favorite character. I like the final painting at the ending of the movie, the rose painting. I felt it was dope. Okay, so I like the struggle with the painting. Like we could see a pain with every stroke she was making. We could see that whenever the trauma happened, a stroke are bad, so the painting was going bad. I like that the painting was like a lens that we could connect to her. Okay. I liked how it ended. I like the ending, the finished work of the painting, but I still had a bit of should it have been finished because I was not convinced at the ending. But just the fact that we could connect to a trauma through a painting, I really appreciated it. Then also, for some reason, I like the flashback in this movie. So I know I complained during Prophetess that I got angry with the plenty flashbacks. And honestly, that movie gave me trauma because anytime I watch movie and I see flashback, I'm like, no, 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 no. But anyway, the trauma ended before Anikola, for thank God. But this movie they did something with the flashback. I felt it was well executed. So when with a lot of Nollywood movie nowadays, when they are in the past and in the present, I get confused. I'm like, are we still in the past? Are we still in the present? But this was seamlessly done. Like I knew when they were in the past, I knew when they were in the present, and I also have to give them effort because I think they printed old money. I don't know if it's how old the Naira looks like. I'm kind of young, but it looks very British. But I know Mr. C. Mr. C is our daddy. He's going to tell us if that is how old money looks like. So they printed old money, and for every time they went to the past, I saw the old money. I was like, wow, these people really put in effort. And even their parties with the Afro wig, the Papa's cap, and everything, I felt like I felt like they considered us, okay? So it's not only like they were giving us flashback that we're lost and we do not know if we're in the past or in the present. We knew when they were in the past, we knew when they were in the present. I also saw their efforts with the printed money and also how they also tried to like make the past look the past. So I really do appreciate the effort. Then another thing with this movie what I liked was the dream to physical transition they did. So the first time she urinated, she was in a dream where I think she was standing and she urinated among some men and she was ashamed. And when she stood up and it was urine, I was like, okay, I kind of like this thing. Like we know when people do have bad dreams and they are having a bad dream. Some during urine because later on in the dream, even during the rape scene and everything, it also affects. And when people have bad dream and they come and wake up, they kind of yeah. For some people, they would have urinated because they were scared or because of the trauma in the dream. But for some people, I mean, they just urinate because they drink a lot of sugar and they are too lazy to stand up. But anyways, I appreciated how they connected the bad dream to and we saw a physical appearance or something in the physical. She's urinating because of this trauma she has. Okay. Then for some reason, the child actors, when they started this movie, I thought they were going to be bad. So when the lady picked up the stand and the guy said what he said, I'm like, oh my god, this will be bad. But they picked up. They really picked up. Okay. The younger Mariah really picked up. The guy also. I mean, my except from that beginning where he said what he said. I think his name was Damilola Ola. I can't remember. When he was waving her and talking to her back, I think he has already picked up. So the child actors were not so bad compared to what I thought they were going to be when I started the movie. So they picked up and I appreciate it. Then this movie also did something. They were good in selling us anger and a rage, and I bought it. And for some reason, that was the only emotion I got. So when she was having a trauma and everything was happening, I was really so angry with the mother. Like I was rooting for her beginning. And when she came back to Nigeria and she went to the hospital scene, I was like, take that pillow and suffocate this wicked woman. So they did they did it so well that I bought her anger and her rage. And when she was also in the hospital, I really liked how they didn't turn it into a happy moment because at that time I was already connected to her. So I liked how she tried to play with the drip and later she realized herself and yeah, I think it worked. The anger worked and them not doing happy moments at that hospital scene also worked for me. And finally, I also noticed that I mean when she forgotten. I don't know if when she came back from London, I heard the car engine starting and knocking out. Then in the hospital I heard a lot of ambulance siren noise. For some reason I liked it. I don't know why I liked it, but I liked it and I was like, I don't even really hear ambulance noise in Nollywood movies. So yeah. So in all, I really liked how they went into the movie. They thought about the viewers. They tried to put in a lot of work. Okay, making sure that we understand when they're in the past and when they're in the present. And I appreciate them for it. So yes, that's all I have for my life.
All right. No, thank you, Cynthia. Of course, I expect nothing less than an established list. But yes, thank you. I love really nice, good specific things being
Yeah,
made there.
I used to take that thing for granted a little bit, establishing when we're in the past and when we're in the present
Yes.
until I saw Man of God.
There's so
And I was
many
like, oh, okay.
there's so many films that have really made me, even Citation.
Yeah.
Citation, I think it's with Citation, it wasn't as bad in terms of the events because I think maybe the events made you know where you were, but the way it looks, the way it takes you back,
Yeah.
it's so confusing in Citation. I think they were moving the aspect ratio like ever just so slightly in Citation that it wasn't as easy to tell the past from the present, but yeah, this one makes it clear because of just it's such a period. The past is done in with different characters for sets and using different um almost some people with different people, but certain with different makeup and all of that.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to tell um the flashbacks. All right. Thanks a lot, Cynthia. Appreciate that. Fighter, I think. If you tell us the
Hi.
things, yes. Hi. Hello.
Okay, these are my likes. So I like the title of the film showing after her monologue on canvases. I felt waiting 12 minutes in to see the title was bold. I like the girl that played the younger Ryo. I thought she was a wonderful actor. She gave a well-rounded performance and was good in all her scenes. The vulnerable scene where she peed on the bed and the friend found out, I think was powerful and I liked it. It was exactly what you wanted to see, what you wanted to see. A friend seeing another friend's shame and helping her to cover it. So I felt it was a beautiful scene with the meaningful action of handing her fresh pajamas. I love that. I like the relationship between her and her friend. I like the friend too, especially her look in the salon and the scene of her smoking a joint so casually. She was an extremely flesh character that provided the support, love, and understanding her friend needed. I liked Ryo because she played those painful, traumatic, and emotional scenes well. You could feel her pain in some scenes. I liked the flashback scene where her mother was applying her makeup. It was very slow motion. The music was really nice. I liked the detail with the money to signify the time period. I liked seeing Effa because Effa is handsome, genuine with the roles that he plays. So it was nice to see him there. I like how he's slightly goofy, but he's a natural actor with like a good steady eye contact. And I loved the kaftan that he wore at the art exhibition and also the beautiful dresses Ryo wore. I love the scene where Raya and him laughed and fell out of screen or fell out of frame in unison, and then again when they held up their drinks in unison when Ryo aired his kiss. The last one that I liked was the scene where Fola comes out of nowhere and says he thinks Ryo should open an art gallery because he notices she lights up around art. I was like, that's a love language right there. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Father. Those were very nice, nice, succinct. Yes, it's interesting. I think Shaggy Lola is the way you pronounce her name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but that's our main character played Raya. She also wrote, directed, and produced this film. So it's a big feat. It's like the last time I remember this, obviously starring in there as well. So the last time I remember this happening was in Lionheart, a film that notoriously I'm not a fan of. But I also it's not even like I don't appreciate a lot of aspects in Lionheart. I do, but yeah, this but like in terms of measuring feet, the last time I remember something like this being done is yeah, Lionheart. In terms of all of its in terms of how hands-on somebody has been on a project. But yes, kudos to her. Um, uh, Elizabeth's not quite on. All right, she's gonna forget. All right, Mel, do you want to tell us the things that you enjoyed about Tainted Canvas?
Hello, everyone.
I did. I thought that I appreciated it in general. I really liked the cinematography. I think that's the thing that caught my attention. There was a lot of use of negative space. Um, I thought there's some really, really beautiful frames, some really, 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 just some really nice frames. And I really enjoyed that. I thoroughly did. I also thought that the film got tone right. I thought that the tone for it was consistent throughout. And it wasn't just an editing and camera work thing. It was also, it felt like the acting, all of these were just in sync. Um, I thought there was also something poetic about some certain just juxtapositions. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if it's an editing or a script thing. I don't know that one yet. But there are certain juxtapositions between quietude and like just some upbeatness that I thought was really poetic, that I really enjoyed. The way that there's a fella-esque instrumental that comes and that is more upbeat than the rest of the film, right? And the way that it comes in is in contrast to some quiet that we've experienced. And this was at the beginning of the film. That caught my attention. There's also a scene in the hospital where Ryo is with the doctor, and then Tinemba's character comes in singing like a praise song. That I really liked. I liked it. And what else did I like? The young Ryo. I thought she did a good job. I thought she did a. I thought she was very solid. Um, but it wasn't just the acting; it was also that there was like an uncanny resemblance between her and older Ryo. I thought that was like whoever did the casting did a really good job. They looked alike. They had the lower lip pout. So they looked alike. And she was a wonderful actor. What else did I like? So I've talked about cinematography. I talked about the actress. I thought that the performances were solid. Um, I thought the performance that stood out to me was young Ryo. But that's anyway. So another thing that I liked was that I thought that it had some very powerful messages. I think this is apart from cinematography, this is like my biggest like. I thought it had some really powerful messages. Just the way that it approached the topic was with an acknowledgement that it was complex, complicated. And I think that it's very easy to brush over the complicatedness of topics like this. So I really appreciate that the ending poem, for instance, really just like drives that point home that like feelings like these can be really complicated. And I think that okay, we'll get to the bad and then I'll explain more. But I thought that just recognizing that something like this is not just heavy, it's also complicated. And the feelings that it can ignite can be very confusing. We could see that Ryo both equally. She loved her mom. She hated her mom. She wanted closure. She wanted justice. Just this very convoluted emotions. I like that it did that. I don't. We've attacked. Nollywood had attacked the topic of um sexual assault, childhood trauma, many, 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 many times, right? But I think that this is one of the few times that I'm like, okay, so the filmmaker recognizes that this thing it's not just a story to be told, it's also I like that he recognized the complications inherent in such a topic. I like that I like that they were careful about the issue of forgiveness. I don't think they took it all the way there, but I appreciate how careful they were. I think a very Nigerian thing to do is forgive her. She's your mother. But that's not why. That's not why Ryo eventually forgives her. And by the time, and honestly, by the time Ryo's forgiveness comes around, it's tied into her like her personal decision to heal, right? And it's such a powerful message that when she thought she was ready to, I guess, move on, I would talk more about moving on. But when she thought she was ready, she said, "Okay, I forgive you." And it wasn't "I forgive you for you, I forgive you for society." It was "I forgive you for me." And it also came on the back of her like getting to know her mother more. I like that it came on the back of her getting. It wasn't just this is the thing you need to do. She didn't need to do it, but she could see, for instance, how hurt people hurt other people. um I guess she could relate to that, and just deciding there, she talks in the voiceover narration. She talks about like, oh, now like you've taught me how to be in control of my brush. Phrasing a little, but I think I get the point of that. That seeing her mother's story and seeing how her mother not being intentional about her healing affected her life, I guess could have taught her that she has to be intentional about her healing, or otherwise she would affect other people's lives, maybe her own child also. So just that carefulness around the topic of forgiveness. It wasn't burdened by religiosity. It wasn't burdened by respectability, or an I guess an entitlement or an obligation because she's your parent. It wasn't burdened by any of that. It felt like a personal journey that she was starting to undertake. And I think that the scene at the end where she bursts into tears just shows that like forgiveness itself is also a journey. It's not just the decision to, oh, I forgive you, not the exclamation of it, right? It's also just working through the emotions, because we know how things end with her mother, but I guess the insurance and the passing on the necklace to her shows some sort of um, kindness on her mother's part. And it's like that again, just that I never wanted you. Here's the thing that was most important to me. I've thought of you all through the way, right? So it shows just her bursting into tears with just that realization. It's not a thing that happens in a day. It's a journey that you take. The decision to forgive, the forgiveness itself, the healing, it's all a journey, a process. And I like that the movie recognized that. I don't know how else I can keep talking about it. um I think that something really powerful that it does as well is that it acknowledges harm. I think that it's a very Nigerian thing to not acknowledge harm, not at all. Like if your parents, and I guess just the general Nigerian parent, if they annoyed you, they wouldn't say, "Oh, I did something bad, I'm sorry." They would probably say something like, "Do you want to eat?" Or "Here's something I bought for you," some random thing I bought for you. But um, even though I don't think the mother really did, but her mother's sister did, her auntie did. Her auntie says, "We're sorry. We recognize that we fucked you up, and it cannot be easy, even being here, and we are sorry." And I thought that was just so powerful. Um, it's one of the things about forgiveness that I think that Nollywood forgets, that it's not just a thing you have to do as a victim, but the perpetrator has to acknowledge their harm first and foremost. Anyway, so those are the things that I really, really liked. I thought that it attacks this topic with the necessary, maybe respect is the word. And I thought the cinematography was really beautiful. In fact, about the cinematography, I thought that it had like a ridiculous amount of control. Um, there's a shot that I just remembered randomly, and it's how we go from becoming Michelle Obama's book. And it's how the blur moves. So it blurs out everything but becoming, then it reveals Michelle Obama's name, then it reveals Rayo's face. I thought that was some ridiculous amount of control. I don't think I have seen that. Anyway, those are my likes. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mel. Mel giving a heavy shout out to the cinematographer and the message. I completely agree with both of those points. There's two of my points. Well, those 2 points are on my notes. The cinematography is actually. I remember again not to do too much of a comparison to a different other film that has already been mentioned, but yeah, sometimes I think one thing that somebody says is, like, hey, it's just this. What are you supposed to do with a camera? And like one of the things I say is go watch Tainted Canvas. Go watch what they did with. There's one shot that I don't even think I've seen in I don't recall seeing this kind of a shot before, and it's when they come to tell her. It's when it's when they come to tell her about her mom's passing. So like they're telling the aunt, and it's a shot on our main character. It's a weird kind of dolly zoom slash warp thing that's going on, and I don't know what it is, and it's possible that it I don't know whether they intended to shoot it exactly like that. Um, and it's possible in some other world maybe it doesn't work, but I thought it did because like it's just as it's just as it's setting magnetic in whilst watching anyway. Like you feel something is going on in this character's head that is just destabilizing. As for me, it has basically the same effect as a dolly zoom, but it's not a dolly zoom. It's more than a dolly zoom anyway. It's at least the way is usually done. I really liked that. That was something. But yes, there's lots to say about the cinematography. I have a few clips on some of the things that they could have done, but yes, I agree in general that was well done.
Yeah, this is not cinematography related, but following up from that scene on where they tell her about her mother's death, I like that we move on to a scene of her sweeping and making the bed, and like the bed is dusty as she's making it, and it just feels so normal before we move on to the funeral. Like, and if you've lost someone, like especially in Nigeria, like, when my grandma died, we were cleaning up all her stuff and trying to put everything away, and it just seemed like it fit, right? Like you do all of that cleaning and try to look after their place, and then you bury them or you pack everything away. It just worked.
Yeah, I think it's part of that thing that Mel was actually discussing about like tone and like mood. Like the film's tone and mood is very much consistent throughout, and it does a very good job of maintaining and keeping a tone, which is it's really just not easy to do. So yes, kudos to that. All right, Vanessa.
Oh, it's me. Hi. I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't account for
Yeah.
clocks moving back, all of that. Likes. I feel like Mel has basically said everything, but I really like the cinematography. It was one of the few first things that stood out to me when I was watching this last night. I did fall asleep a number of times, but it had nothing to do with the film. That time of the month, I'm really sleepy. Um, but the cinematography stood out to me because I really enjoyed the way it was shot. Um, it just felt very artistic, but also it fit in the film. Like it's one thing where you can see someone is doing certain things with the camera because they think it's artistic and they're doing all of this creative stuff with the camera. But this wasn't that. It just really fit in with the rest of the film. That as much as it stood out, it also didn't at the same time. It just felt right for what it was. So I really liked that about it. What did I like? I liked the premise of it. Um, that opening shot was a bit like it's one of those things where the opening scene was like, okay, why is this child eating sand? But then again, children eat sand because children eat sand. But it's that thing where you're like, okay, there has to be a reason behind the reason why this girl is eating sand. But I can also excuse it at the beginning because I don't know a lot about this character and just chalk it up to being a child. And the film does that in many ways, until the reveals, the small reveals that we're getting. You're wondering, okay, why is this person reacting the way they're reacting to certain things? But I can also excuse it for certain things. And we do it in life with people as well. We see the way people act and you're like, "Ah, why is this person acting this way? Or why is this person doing that way?" But then in the back of your mind, you also make excuses for the way they act. And I think most times Nigerian films don't do that, you know. Have us make excuses for characters that we don't know very well um at the beginning, until we begin to know these people, then we can fully understand the reason why they are the way they are. And I think this does a good job. The small reveals in the little flashbacks that she has while she's painting, or it could be nightmares, it's not giving us a whole first half hour of the film showing the backstory, because he could have done that, but that would have not that wasn't would have not been an interesting thing to do. I like that it was showing up in these pop-up moments, because then it felt like we were feeling the things as well. It was coming to us as flashbacks as well, and it was coming to us as nightmares as well. It just felt like a more realistic and honest way to show us her trauma. um I also really liked it's a weird thing to like, but I also really liked the places where they showed how cold and unfeeling her mother could be. Because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there's a certain tendency to have, I don't know, maybe it's the way Nigerians treat stories like this, but there's a certain thing where they sort of make excuses for these people. Um, and it's like, oh, it's because she's this. And even though the film does that, that scene, maybe this is a personal choice, but I actually wish it had just ended that way. But I also agree with Mel, where it's like there's nuances to these things, and how her mother goes from "I never wanted you" to actually leaving everything to her. But I genuinely just wish it had ended there. That scene where she kissed her mother on the forehead and placed the pearls on her neck, in my opinion, should have just been went where it all ended. Because I genuinely just appreciated that as closure. Because then it wasn't her relying on her mother for closure, but her just, okay, I've come to a place of acceptance where you've told me that you never wanted me. That's enough for me. Because it's never going to be 100% of the time where someone says, "Oh, actually, always loved you, even though I told you I haven't." If you've had childhood trauma, it's one or two things. You always want closure, or you come to a place where you actually don't need that closure anymore. If you've always had a question that you've always wanted to have asked, and you've asked that question, the answer may not be what you've wanted, the answer may not be what you thought, but you've gotten the answer, and most times that's enough for you. And I just wish that scene where she kissed her mother on the forehead, gave dropped the pearls on her, the one thing that she kept from her biological father, took her rice and left. That honestly was enough for me. Um, but that was one of my favorite scenes. I don't know, it just struck me because I could relate in some ways, where you have questions. I haven't asked my questions yet, but that scene where she just asked the question that she's always wanted to know, and she got that harsh answer. And I don't know, I just really liked that the mother, I don't know, it could have been predictable and to just say, "Oh yeah, no, but I've always loved you," which is why the living her thing didn't do it for me. That's just me. But just sometimes people just don't want you. Some people just aren't great people. You know, it, it had nothing. May not have had anything to do with her postpartum depression. May have not have had. Some people just aren't meant to have children, and I don't know. It probably would have worked for me if the mother was one of those people, because there are some people who who should not have children. They're just not built for it. And when they do, they inflict the most horrible things on these children. What else did I really like? I like Segilola in this. I didn't like her. I haven't liked her in a couple of projects. I really like, maybe it's because she made this. So I don't know, this just feels right for her. I really liked her in this. I liked her performance in this. You know, the little gasps, the first scene where she tried to off her mom, and that moment where she realizes what she's doing, and like it almost like she was out of her body while she was trying to cut off the drip, and like she comes back into her body afterwards. I really liked a lot of her performance in this. I really liked Tinamba in this as well. This is one of the better Tinamba. I mean, we've had the conversation about how lately they've sort of placed her in this mother role that's always angry and yelling, but this was really beautifully done. Kehinde Bankole is always wonderful. I don't know, this was just maybe it's because the script was good as well. A lot of the dialogue was really good in this. I don't know, it just felt like regular people talking about regular things. Even the fact that Shegilola's Yoruba wasn't great just felt right, you know. I don't know, it just felt like they were talking like regular people would talk, who were going through this horrific thing. So maybe it lended to the performances being good as well. And if Segilola directed this, then she did a really good job directing her actors. I don't know. She did a good job with this. There's some things I don't like, but I liked this to a large extent. But then again, I fell asleep when I was watching it yesterday night. So there's that.
All right. She did write, direct, and executive producer.
And star.
Yes, obviously everybody saw her in it. So yes, she did star in it. But yes, no, a lot of positives from Vanessa, even though she has some reservations, which we will be hearing in a bit. But if you do want to join, either use the request the mic button or hashtag Nollywood Film Club, or just comment underneath this space. We'll read and pin your tweet up in a bit. But in the meantime, we shall move on to Elizabeth.
Okay, so what do I like about Tainted Canvas? Like, I think everybody has said most of the things that I like is the camera work, actually. I really love the camera work. Production design. See, throughout, there was nothing that stood out that wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know if you get what I mean. I can't exactly establish the timeline, and I like that they did not bother explaining it because there was nothing too glaring about the timeline because of the wigs and then the 1 naira notes, right? I figured or a character rather, Mariah's character should be what? This should be shot in the 2000s maximum. That's what I thought because of the last time I saw 1 naira notes was a very long time ago. Anyways, so but I like that I couldn't dwell on it because nothing too jarring about the timeline stood out to make me question their choice of house, money used, whatever. So that's that. I mean, apart from the again, like I said, nothing too jarring because I thought I remember something, but nothing else stood out. So I think the production design, I love it. The house, I saw that when she came back, when they showed the old house, I was trying to see what are they going to do, make it to, because I'm sure this is a flashback. What are they going to do differently this time around? And of course, to the best of their knowledge, they just like put like branches of dead branches of the palm trees on top of the flowers. I'm like, yeah, okay, not bad, not bad. Because I was really wondering, like, are you going to cut those things off? Or anyways, not to dwell on that, but really, I've been very concerned about production design of late because I feel like overall it should add to the aesthetics of the movie. I mean, it's visual storytelling, so everything should work together to elevate the plot, right? And then to elevate the experience. And that is one experience that I really like. So when she came back from UK and go back to Nigeria, first her hair changed and then she wore Ankara throughout. I'm like, yeah, I don't begrudge you. That's also like good characterization. Is it that she's two different persons? Um, is it that now that she's home, she doesn't have to fit in? She can just be, right? Sort of different from who she was when she was in the UK, where she had the wig, the way she dressed. Again, maybe she's not a chameleon. She's just this person who really can't identify who she is, and she just morphs into a new person wherever she's in a new environment. Again, worked for me. Um, the acting, I thought the acting for the most part, which is not even really for the most part, even the horrible teacher, even the friend who was the guy, I thought everything was purposeful to the tone of this movie. Um, everything was purposeful. Everything, the acting, the I think I think the acting stood out for me for the most part. I love the sound. I love the tone. I love the choices of shots. The one I really actually like was when she was coming back from the hospital. She had to pass through that artwork by under the bridge. I love how that shot worked with Ankara dress and the music, the fella-esque music, as Mel mentioned, at the background. So I just thought that entire scene was nice. Um, I like the premise of this story because I mean, hurt people. But I don't think, okay, when we get to back, I'll talk more about it. But as much as I don't think that's the premise, it's more like uh, a cyclical thing, and I think it deserves more depth. Even though we see it, we see how these are perfected. Honestly, for both mother and daughter, when we're watching the past initially before we started unfolding their life, I thought that there were too much people. Sorry to use the word mad, more like a mental illness, civil, because you can see it in their actions, right? The way she reacts is more like, is she usually like this, or this is the person she lived with, and now she's imbibed her character because her mom is so hot and cold, and not just that she has very weird ways of reacting to things, and then you can see this with the daughter, with her interactions with her friends, or rather when she was with the teacher, the way she reacted, like it's in the responses she gives, which is very similar to the way her mother speaks, right? And it's in the, oh, I'll send you to your dad, and you're not exactly sure where she's coming from with her responses to things. Like in moments you catch that, oh, she's serious. In other moments you're like, I don't think this person is complete though. But you're not sure. But you see it also when Mariah interacts. When she puts her in her mouth, threw away. It's in the things that you're like, why are you like this? But then she's a canvas, as she mentioned you know, she's a canvas and she's been written upon. And her first impression is her mother. And so now that she's acting as a mom would, or a mom has been, it's just in the way the choices her mother makes that makes absolutely no sense, right? and you're really trying to like, so do you hate your child, or you're really, really not a normal person, which I think, was happening. And but this is Mariah, who she doesn't have depression, right? But she's acting in that strange manner, right? She's not exactly the most normal girl around. And I really liked the characterization, right, of these two in the first, second act rather, that we get to see. As it unfolds, I mean, you can make I like movies where I can make my own inference from what is being shown to me, right? More like the intentionality of what the director is trying to tell me. And I like that in the first two acts, the director wasn't exactly trying to do a lot of telling, it was just allowing the story, whatever that means, just allowing the story unfold as you're watching it, you're taking it. I really like that the first two acts did that. And I also like the relationship between Mariah and her friend, her bestie. I thought that was good. I love that she had her in her corner. She had somebody she could speak to. In fact, let me tell you, there was this scene when the doctor was like, if you need anybody to talk to. In fact, when I was watching this movie, I didn't really have a lot. I was just watching it just to see what was going to happen. But I didn't really have like a lot of emotion out of me. But when he said, if you need anybody to talk to, I'm like, I beg, she has somebody to talk to. She doesn't need a savior. Because I like that she has somebody to talk to. It's not that she's lacking of somebody to talk to. She has somebody to talk to. And I'm very grateful for that the writer chose to give her that. She's somebody who is working through what life has thrown at her. She's trying to, and it's not a suffering porn, right? She's not, oh, woe betide me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. I like that she has somebody she has friends that understand. She has a friend that I understand is trying to help her walk through it. Thank you very much, Mr. Doctor. That's the door. Anyway, that's all that I liked about Tainted Canvas. Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you. Another exhaustive list. So there are certainly things to like, and we're going to hear some more from Mrs. C. Mrs. C.
I don't know that I'm saying anything new. I will reiterate I do like that she already had that her friend in London. Funny enough, the people who were watching it with thought that was her girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess they missed the part where she was asking her why she didn't want to go out with some guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have been a brave choice. I wouldn't have minded that choice, but okay. But yeah, I do like that she had someone to talk to. I like that the thing with Effa didn't really go far, and like, Effa's character wasn't some sort of savior for her. I feel like we could have done without him, but he is pretty to look at. But we could have done without him, and the story would have been perfectly fine, mostly the same.
So I think Effa is there to show you her difficulty with moving with another dude, moving on with a dude.
Yeah, but as her friend has already mentioned that she's not giving some guy a chance. So
yeah,
it's fine to assume she has difficulty with giving guys a chance. Yeah, what else? I liked Segi's performance. I thought she was good.
Oh yeah, you're on nickname basis now. You're on Segi's performance.
Yes, that's right. Well, girls like that. All right.
Okay.
She's my girl. She might not know it yet, but I did like her performance. I liked her performance in the film that shall not be named.
Yeah, I actually.
I liked her performance in the film that shall not be named. The film carried all of us to where we don't know, but I liked her performance in it, so that's fine. I like her performance. I'd like that she managed to give a good performance in a film she was directing. That's kind of hard to do.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to do. So yeah, I like that she did that. Tina Amber, I think, gave a good performance as well. I think Tina Amber's good. I think we've seen too much of her just being like a disapproving mom and shouting a lot, and it's just it was nice for her to get in touch with her emotions and be emotional and not yelling, and it was nice. I would like to see Tinamba as a lead in a rom-com, Give Me Ticket to Paradise, but that's a different movie. Then what else did I like? Kehinde Bankole.
Jesus.
Kehinde Bankole. I did like her performance in this. Especially when she was in the hospital. There was this, I feel like she was giving pride, shame, dying, all at the same time. I feel like she managed to give all of it at the same time, which I did really like. And Mr. C is going to say I'm stealing his point, which I did, but he did mention that they aged her very well, and I agree with that. I think they aged her quite well. So yeah, I feel like the performances were the strongest parts of this film for me. I really did enjoy the performances. I'm going to borrow from Cynthia and say the last painting was dope. But yeah, the final painting was really good. I did enjoy performances in this. I liked the colors as well for the most part. For the most part, I did like the color. It looked normal. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a normie way of describing it, but yes.
Yeah, I'm going to describe it like a normie. A lot of it looked normal, and it's something one can take for granted. But when you watch a lot of what we've seen this year, you would appreciate a film looking normal, looking like what your eyes would see. So Mel said she enjoyed some of the frames. I enjoyed some of the frames as well. What else did I like? Yeah, the performances were my strongest thing. I liked that it was messy. There's still some things in the way the story moved and ended and all of that I didn't quite like, but I liked that it was messy. I like that you can see that someone can be a victim and a victimizer, right? Is a victimizer the word?
I don't know.
A victim and a perpetrator. It's a victim and a perpetrator. And I think you can see that someone is a victim and a perpetrator without excusing the perpetrator based on the fact that they were a victim.
Is collision course getting shit?
I think collision course it shades itself. But yeah, I do like that. I can see that someone was a perpetrator, a victim and a perpetrator. I don't know if the intention was because it did conclude with, you live on and all of that forgiveness crap that I don't buy or care for. But I ignore that part and I go with...
It's because you're young, but go on.
Maybe it is because I'm young. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is because I'm young. And I think maybe she should have just, when she was twisting the drip, and just let her die. But whatever. I did really enjoy that she died without knowing that her daughter forgave her. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fair, absolutely fair to her. Because it was clear, right? She was victimized. She victimized her daughter in horrible, horrible, awful ways. But her daughter didn't go on to victimize someone else.
She broke the cycle.
She broke the cycle. And I feel like showing that, right, is a show that victimizing someone else because you're a victim is not an excuse. Mm-hmm. Being a victim is not an excuse to be a perpetrator. It might be part of your story, which is fine, but it's not an excuse.
Well, let's say it's not your destiny.
It's not an excuse. It's not your destiny, but it's not an excuse. Okay. Choices are being made. A lot of things are influenced you, but choices are being made. So I did like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Yeah, the younger one, the younger version of her does quite look like her.
So much like her.
I think that's beautiful casting.
So much like her.
The younger one does really look like her. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I think, yes, like a lot of people have said some of the things that that I liked as well, but let me say some lighting I thought was really nice. And I think it's part of what when people say they enjoyed the shots, I think the lighting is playing a strong part of it in a lot of ways. This film is comfortable with darkness. It doesn't feel like everything has to be lit and and it uses the darkness well as well. It's comfortable, like just going, yeah, some things are going to be in the shadows, and that's fine. It's part of it, and it uses it really well. Um, uh, some of the cinematography I've mentioned, very nice. There's so much variety in what the camera does. I mentioned the shot when Shagilola's character is knowing that her mother's dead, and that I don't know what move that is, but it feels like a dolly zoom, but it feels also more than a dolly zoom. It feels like a dolly zoom combined with a warp. It's very just. It was nice to just put you in the perspective of what the character was feeling. Um, um, but aside that, like there were other just different types of shots. There were some really nice close-ups with like nice depth of field where the background was blurry. There were wide shots, even like in just like film language. Sometimes when I say things like some films aren't that great, I just mean sometimes like you don't even understand bare film language. Like sometimes you're using wide shots when you shouldn't be using wide shots. There's I remember the scene where they gave her mother's will, and it starts with a wide shot, and then Auntie hands it to her. She picks up the brown envelope. When she goes to open the brown envelope, it goes to a close-up shot of her opening the brown envelope, and then she picks up the pearl. I think it's the pearl she picks up first. Whatever she picks up first from the brown envelope, she picks it up, and you see the camera pan from the brown envelope up to her face to see how she feels about her face. It's simple things like that. Like I know when I'm not getting this from other films. It's difficult because like the absence of something is harder to spot and harder to explain sometimes with watching other films. But like simple camera movements like that, like that's not amazing. That's not reinventing any wheel. But I'm telling you right now, we do not get enough of that. Sometimes we are doing wide shots for things that I want to know how this person feels. You should get closer. Why are we still seeing a wide shot? But yes, anyway, that's the praise for cinematography and stuff like that. I thought there were loads of. I don't think there was a weak performance from any of the lead characters, not that I remember. So that's good. I thought Shagilola's performance was solid. I wouldn't say great. It's not. It's not. The great performance here for me was Kenji's performance. Um, there are parts of for somebody who is just such a atrocious, horrible character and doing some of the most heinous things I've seen on screen. There is a there are layers. I think she's able to give certain actions she does. Miss C still mentioned the part where she's at the hospital scene where she's stuck, where there's a mixture of like where I'm seeing a mixture of like pride and shame. And like not looking her in the eye. And I think that's facilitated by the script, to be honest. The script says, I guess the script is the one that says, "Oh yeah, she gives her you give your mother the food," and mother is like, um, "It's too much pepper." Like, imagine in this situation, you are still you are still opening your mouth to say, but that's the pride. That's the. I felt like at that point where she was almost saying like, "It's not I shouldn't be blamed. I didn't ask for this, right? It's not my fault. Like I didn't want her, so like I didn't have to do right by her. It's like an abdication of responsibility. At that point, she's like, well, like, yeah, so what? Like, I didn't want her, right? And it's yeah, I think she carried a lot, and the makeup was done by the person who played Eze, by the way.
Yeah.
The makeup, if I the SF special the special effects makeup, I think was done by her. I did the Nolly data. I was surprised by that, but I thought that was impressive. Um, uh, what else? I thought a lot of the costumes for like staying in the house were really nice. I thought um, instead of calling her Segilola, her name's Raya, right?
Yeah.
All right. Raya did this one where I think she tied a wrap around her. That one where you tie it around your neck, and also I thought that was dope. Also, some of the clothes, even the nightie as they wore whilst when Raya was peeing the bed. That nightie feels like the nightie and every day you wear every day, as opposed to, hey, we're shooting a film, we need to get a nice nightie so that it looks all nice. And there was so many of that in there that just felt, oh no, this is what like everyday people wear during everyday time. So it helped you settle into this world. Helped me settle into this world anyway. What else have I got on here? So I guess it's worth speaking about this because sexual assault is something that a lot you hear me every time it happens in a Nollywood film. I will go, hey, there's Nollywood putting sexual assault in a film again. And usually the reason why I say this is because a lot of times people throw sexual assault as like cheap emotional for cheap emotional points. Like they don't care about it's almost like, hey, we need you to feel sorry for this character. Let's have her. Yeah, it's like because like a lot of times it comes out of nowhere. Nothing has been built.
There's no care or respect put into it.
There's no care or respect put into how they want to discuss it because of the points you get from using it. Well, this film is clearly not like that, and it clearly has something it wants to say about sexual assault. So it shouldn't even be a point in Nollywood, but like so many times, so many like every time I can remember the first place I spoke about it because like it's something that's tricky to speak on as especially as a guy. Um, I remember the first space I spoke about it, and I got pushed back from it from a certain filmmaker on that was the what space was it? It was Superstar Space actually. I remember, yeah, I remember very clearly because I was talking about we were talking about Nancy's one.
I had to come woman's play for you.
Yes. I was like, I need help if anybody else thinks, and a lot of the people on here did had my back on that one. Not just had my back. I think they were actually speaking about it. But I think since that day, that was the first time I brought up like we've now. I've not let it rest since that. Like almost everyone and every at least every other Nollywood, like there's sexual assault in there, and it's just done. But yeah, just like this person gets raped. Like we'll show it's cheap and it's
just sprinkle it
very.
In there.
It feels very cheap and it doesn't feel and it's like it should be a serious thing because like it's an important thing that honestly, especially in Nigeria, it's something that there's so many different things that can be said about it.
Yeah.
And this film puts us in the actual seat of somebody who has gone through this. And the other thing, which leads me to the last thing I'm going to say about one of my likes, I think there are others, but this is going to be the last thing I say, is I like that this film, I think Vanessa touched on things on this, like, essentially this film like gives you pieces of the puzzle at first and it just goes, don't worry, all of this will make sense in time, and it just starts sort of like moving the pieces in the right place. But like it just starts with weird pieces like Vanessa said, she's eating sand. You have that shot of what looks like a young person, a young guy, um, probably doing a sexual assault in fairness, but because at that time Raya's character is old and like he doesn't look that old, so you don't know whether that you don't know how this has happened or what, and then you find out that's a flashback and whatever. But like, there's just always these little shots that they give at the beginning of the movie, and throughout the movie, it just puts the pieces together. And when you're doing a non-linear movie like that, that's much harder to do, to be honest. So kudos for. I don't know if it was 100% written in that way. And or if that was done after writing it, but like I thought given what they tried to do, they actually stuck the execution for the most part. I this is not an easy this is not an easy film to have executed. Like so like they went this was an ambitious film to take on, and that the fact that she again executive produced, directed, wrote and starred in it. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. If she does a lot of this, I can't see any reason why she couldn't, be rubbing shoulders with like F16 and all of this. I just know that it's a lot of work. It seems like this was her first feature. I'm not sure of this. I might have to double check that. But yeah, I thought what a bold and ambitious first step to take. So kudos to her on that end. So having said that, let's now move on to the stuff that we don't think we liked as much. All right, so Cynthia, let's start with you.
Okay. Let me start with my first like. Like I said, my first like was Izzy's character. I really liked her so much that I thought that this was going to be a film about family and friendship. I mean, even when she was in London and she got the call from my auntie and she didn't want to go, Izzy was like the person that were like, go and meet your mom, okay? So when she came back to Nigeria and they spoke once, I thought that I was going to see more of them talking, um, to like talk about how the whole reconciliation or how the whole closure she is looking for, what is going on. Okay, so when we got to the hospital scene and Tinamba tried to connect Dr. Fola, I was so pissed. I was so pissed. I wanted that friendship. I wanted her and Izzy friendship. Okay, so I hated everything that happened between her and Effa. So I don't know if it's because of my love for her and Izzy that made me not appreciate what was going on between her and Dr. Fola. So I'm not even concerned about doctor and patient. I just so much love what was going on between her and Izzy. I wanted more of their interaction. I wanted her to be there. I just wanted her to just be around when the oak closure was happening. So when um they tried to bring Dr. Fala into the picture and they went for their dinner, they went to the art museum or wherever they went to, I was not interested. I was not interested. It was so bad that when Effa character, Dr. Fala tried to kiss her, I felt it was predatory. I I felt maybe it's my love for is this character and her that was clouding my judgment, but I hated whatever was going on or whatever they tried to put between her and Dr. Fola. I did not want it. I was like, no, get out, get out. So that's my first dislike. Um, my second dislike was though even though I liked that the movie was from her, like it was all a perspective perspective and everything, I felt like the movie was very isolated. There was no external factor. Like, yeah, it worked. Okay, so a lot of things worked. Okay, like it's good. But like when the auntie came and was like, I know everything your mom had been doing to you. I don't know what I was supposed to buy from it, because I mean, if you know everything a mom had been doing to her and you were just settled down, calm, there was no like external push. I don't know. So yeah, I like that everything was from a perspective, but I just did not like that all the external factors were removed. Okay, like even when we got to the market scene where the rape happened, we saw the market was crowded. Okay, she got into the rape happened, and she came out, and I felt they didn't clean up. And if she had gone home, I mean, the movie would have ended, because for her to leave the market scene, the market shop, the way it was, and move around that crowd, everything would have ended because of external factors. Okay, so they kind of removed the whole external factor. And when I looked at the mom, I wanted to understand why she was behaving the way she was behaving. So, like Elizabeth said, at first, when you're watching this movie, you start making a friend. So I'm watching the movie and I'm like, maybe the mom, because she was complaining about a teacher. So I was like, oh, maybe the mom wants to marry the teacher. So she's behaving the way she's behaving, and she's trying to like not listen to her daughter, because the teacher is her love interest and she wants the teacher. Then they did some other things. I'm like, maybe the father of the girl left the mom. So I was making a lot of inferences why the mom was behaving the way she was behaving. And honestly, I think I would have taken it if they didn't even try to tell me why she was behaving the way she was behaving. Because when we got to a scene, or the scene where they try to bring about grandpa's death, I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. Okay. Then when they got to postpartum depression, I was angry. I would have accepted if I didn't even know why she was behaving the way she was behaving. Because at the time they said postpartum depression, I was like, she was, yeah, she was depressed, but um, she was doing what she was doing to um like a 8 to 10 year old. So it's way after postpartum. Yes, you could still hate your child, but it's not like she was even in the psychosis stage. She was really trying committing a crime. Okay, she was giving her child out to be raped for money. Okay, there was money involved. So when they came up with postpartum depression and everything, I was not happy. I was not happy. I felt like I would have taken the movie trying to make inferences myself on why she is behaving the way she's behaving, and maybe they would have brought in another excuse. But when I tried looking for excuse and I saw grandpa's death, postpartum depression, and other stuff, I was not excited. I was not excited. Then yeah, so we also I wanted more of the London trip. So when she went to London and we got a flashback of her applying for a grant. I thought at the ending we're going to end with something about the grant and she got it or she did not get it or something like that. I was shocked that we got to a final scene and she could change her picture. So yes, the picture was dope. I like the picture, but I I kind of think that the acceptance, I was not convinced that she should have accepted and make a fine picture of her mother at that point. Okay. I felt like she would have continued with her tainted canvas and used that horrible picture. But then I appreciate that the picture was dope. So and also in London, we also got these people did things that they did not follow up with. So we got the Ivara's romantic arc that was supposed to happen because I mean they went on a date and it got to nowhere, but it later became the person that gave them the news that the mother was dead. We got Eze's sisterhood that I really, really wanted it to continue. Even if they didn't meet in London, I actually just wanted them to keep on talking because she was part of the person that pushed her back to Nigeria. She was part of the person that pushed her back to Nigeria. So it just ended like that. We also got a talk guy that was like, we never saw, but we saw text message, and there was no follow up. But in all, it was a good movie. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, no, thanks, Cynthia. Fida, do you want to tell us some of the things you didn't like about Tainted Canvas?
Yes, I do actually. So my first dislike is the scene where they're smoking a joint in her friend's salon. The way Raya was holding the joint, I think this was the first scene to me that showed that Raya was a character that said one thing and does another. Because her friend offered her the joint and she eagerly says, "Yes, please." But the way she holds and smokes it is pitiful. It's like, do you really know what you're doing?
Hey,
And then
police, look
I'm
at
just
them, oh,
saying.
look at this.
I'm just saying. And then a joint is being wasted when there's a steady stream of smoke as the end burns. So I was like, just give it back. It's clear that this is not a natural thing that you do. So be believable as your friend. That's the first one. Yes, I stand by it. So the second one was I was a bit confused when after the nightmare of her being raped by that man in the shop. She went to the hospital the next day and painted her nails, recalling memories. I wouldn't have gone the next day or even slept on her hand. I get that they had to do shifts. However, I would have expected a colder stance. It didn't suit the previous mood of the nightmare. If someone had that nightmare beforehand, to the point where they even peed on themselves, the chair would have been further from the bed in the hospital and there would have been no painting of nails or even talking. Thirdly, I think Tina Mba is a talented actress, but I can't help but see the uncanny resemblance between her and one of my grandmothers, and I don't think that's a good thing. So it was quite triggering for me. Then when she ran into the hospital and said, "Dr. Fola, you have done it again," I was like, yeah, that's her. So this movie was very triggering on its own, but that added an extra layer. I didn't like the scene of Tina Mba begging Rose to be gentle to Ryo, and Rose saying that she would, only to be nasty and mean when Ryo came in. I felt disgusted, especially when Rose was like she didn't want Ryo and still didn't want her now. Please, why did Ryo kiss her on the forehead? Because at this point, I'd have loved to see some self-respect. Why was she kissing her on the forehead? Because it wasn't nice to see for me. And as she was packing the rice, I knew that if it was me, ill or not, I would have thrown that rice on her or at least flung the necklace at her chest. And why was it that when Ryo walked out of the hospital, that was when Rose started to call out to her and cry for her? For me, that was sickening. Then I disliked that Effa was just there for nothing really beyond the awareness that she wasn't ready for a relationship outside of him being the doctor. I even think he brought some light to the heaviness of the film because it seemed like with everyone else, abuse was the topic, but with Effa, the conversation was light. I just felt he wasn't needed at all in that day's plot. I rolled my eyes when she inherited the beads in the envelope. That whole notion of she really loved you. You loved her, but to her face, you showed her that you hated her. So I didn't that the lack of consistency was making my head spin because for me, I feel like in Nigerian culture, when they tend to depict abuse and it's the abused person that is doing the appeasing and the forgiving and is being told, oh, but they love you. Look at this story, look at what they went through and all of that. But it's like I also have my struggles. So it wasn't giving. So for me, the ending as well didn't do much for me. I intensely disliked it. I didn't the whole forgiveness thing, say hello to daddy, it didn't really sit with me. The painting dedicated to the mother, why are you dedicating something to your abuser? As far as I'm concerned, the film should have attempted way more with a story like this. It needed a deeper dive into the self-healing journey outside the mom. The heavy theme of abuse was not brought to justice. Instead, it was merely shifted to the side for me. Did she stop wetting herself? How about the flashbacks? Did she start therapy? It really wasn't a story for me, because you brought up abuse, only for the relief of the pain to be in the hands of the person that caused it. So it just didn't sit right. And the last thing for me that I like to say is that Bell Hooks has this quote that says, "Love and abuse cannot coexist." So this film, for me, was giving a misleading message about the love between Raya and her mother. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Fida.
Fida. Yeah, what were we discussing whilst Fida?
Yeah, because I was thinking I'm just going to repeat a lot of Fida's points. I am with Fida on that, her last monologue where she's talking about, well, first off, when she said, "Say hi to daddy for me," I was thinking, she's in hell. So unless daddy was scum
she's
as
looking the wrong
well,
way. She's definitely
unless daddy was scum as well, I don't know how she's saying hi to daddy for her. Then the end with the whole, changing the canvas to this, like the portrait at the end, it was a beautiful, absolutely beautiful painting. But that painting in honor of someone, that is not the painting. You don't do that painting in honor of somebody who pimped you out as a child. It just seems
I know what you're
so wrong.
I know what you mean, but like, isn't the point that like it's like out of something horrible?
And this is it. It's like, is this also crediting her mother with unwittingly giving her?
Wait, don't say unwittingly.
She said unwittingly.
Yeah, I know.
Now,
but my point is, don't say unwittingly. Like that's not an important like.
I feel like
qualifier.
too much credit and veneration, is that the word, was given to her abuser, and that is where it came back to Nigeria territory for me. Right, that's where it came back to the Nigerian forgive, move on. It tied into like a bunch of things that actually did wind me up, like when her auntie was telling her that, oh no, she loved you, like, for real, she loved you. After the abuse at the store, and then we show her I can't do this again, I can't keep doing this. And she says, she started prostituting herself. I'm like, oh, so she discovered she had her own vagina and she could use hers to get what she needed instead of her child's. And it was this, oh, she loved you so much, she started prostituting herself to, send you to her father. I'm like, to your father. I'm like, tough shit. Like, you didn't start by prostituting yourself. You started with prostituting your daughter. Like, I thought even maybe she was already prostituting herself and like she's kind of washed up and, they want younger now and they're asking for her daughter. But when her auntie says she started prostituting herself, I'm like, so your first prostitution option was your daughter, not your adult self. And it's like, that made me even less sympathetic. And it's because for most of the film, I didn't feel like it was trying to make me sympathize with the abuser. I was just thinking it's just going to show, and this is why I'm ignoring the bits that try to make me sympathize with the abuser, because I'm like, I'm just perfectly happy with seeing it in terms of someone could have been abused and perpetrate abuse, and it's just a cycle that someone needs to take a step to break, but you're not absolved of your wrongdoing because you were also abused yourself. And considering her abuse was on a much smaller scale than what she perpetrated against her daughter, it was unforgivable, right? Absolutely unforgivable. And also, I'm not one of those people that think you have to forgive people, like even if for yourself. I'm one of those people that think you can live a perfectly fine life and still not forgive people.
That one's semantics.
Yeah, not much you did forgive them. So.
No. I'm saying like what you classify as moving on and what people classify as forgiving is the same thing. It's just used differently. That's why I said it's semantics.
I'm not making a nice venerating portrait for my abusers. Thank you very much. But I say this, right? And I have a bit of conflict in it because it irks me and it bugs me and I don't like it. But I've also seen like real life people hold on to and love abusive parents, right? Just based on whatever affection they give them. And I see it, I get it. And I didn't like that it ended with her, having this whole breakdown, right? It was this, that last scene where she gets the pearls and it's like, they don't say it, right? But you can see it, which I think was kind of good storytelling, where you can see that she's having this moment of, shit, she did love me, right? And that's her validation. It breaks her, but like it breaks her in quotes in a good way for her. It's like, my mother loved me, right? My mother loved me. And we see her breakdown and all of that stuff. And for me, I'm like, fuck that. Like, I don't.
I think that's a young talking, without being too, because like I think, of course, I think.
But like, what I'm saying is, like, I've seen
you
people
can love
like
someone
I've seen
and do
people want
absolute
those
horrible things to them.
Yes, but not prostituting a child.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
yes,
I don't care I don't care about that love. You can take that love and shove it.
Yeah, 100%. But like, it's not
But like,
asking
yes,
you
of
to
course,
accept
yeah,
that
yeah,
love, though, is it?
of course. But like, that was so validating for her, and that was just heartbreaking for me.
Okay, I understand, and honestly, I think that's a tricky thing to.
Yeah.
I think that's a tricky thing
why
to
it's touch and
juggle.
go for me is that because I feel like I've seen it happen, and I know it's real and relatively realistic, and that's just kind of sad.
Yeah, I think that's a tricky thing to juggle. This thing where you can love someone and you can absolutely do horrendous things, but I also do think like what was important was that Rayo forgives her from my vision, like that kiss on the forehead after she's told that she didn't never wanted her, which honestly it wasn't. Well, that's true. I'm sure she didn't answer her question about whether she loved her. She never told her that, and the answer was yes, she did love her. Like obviously, Raya knows she did horrible things to her, but hey, did you love me? Like Raya's been going about seeing all these mothers loving their children throughout and showing it in more. I want to say more conventional ways.
Less criminal ways.
Yeah, but less criminal ways, right? And like, did you even have that? Like, was that a thing? Oh, okay. You did have a little bit of that, and this is a little bit of you showing a more conventional way. I don't think there's anything wrong with going, oh, you had some of that, even though you were complete lunatic psychopath, and I forgave you before, regardless of whether you were going to do anything for me. But yeah, anyway, we'll get into that. I understand. I'm still saying, even with that, I do understand people's issues with that. But thanks, Vida. Thanks, Miss C. Elizabeth, do you want to say something?
Okay, sorry. I quickly want to say something before I go about mommy. So what I don't like mostly about this movie, and thank God that you guys are already mentioning this, I didn't want to lose my train of thought, is how not to write how not to write a story, how not to write, how how not to write what you wanted to write. Because I see what the writer tried to do here, because the hurt is cyclical, right? So in literature, we have this thing called using pathos to drive your story. So first act and second act, we get these pieces that we could piece together. And in the characterization of Mariah's mother, like I said initially, you're not going to see this character and think they were in their right frame of mind, because they were not. There was nothing in their actions that showed that they were normal, whether they are calculated wicked person from birth, or they are manipulative. You're not going to see that, because this is a very hot and cold character. 1 minute, like in the beginning where she was really scared that her daughter came home late, you can see that, okay, so this is love. I can't use the word, but you can see she was really bothered that she couldn't find a child, and she was so focused on how she was scared. But she wasn't hearing anything this girl was telling her. She wasn't hearing that her teacher was wicked to her or anything, because she switched immediately. She was a wicked person. Immediately, she was a wicked mother. She didn't care. Oh, it's your fault. Oh, it's your fault. And then she switched again. Oh my God, you scared me so much. Where would I have looked for you all about? So there is nothing in the characterization in the first place that shows that this was a normal person mentally, right? So I felt like this was what she was going for with that character, something cyclical. It could have been something that got triggered during postpartum depression. And postpartum depression is like there are three forms. There's one, there's the last one that is not even depression, is postpartum psychosis. It develops and then it gets to that stage, and then you have this Yoruba people call them abisiwi. They just become mad. They're functioning but also not functioning. They're just not normal. And if they do not have care, maybe they could evolve to that manner. But what I think this person writer did, the first mistake in the third act is using pathos to drive a story. Now you've done a fantastic job in the first two halves, and they're not halves again, first to act. And now that you have decided to use your own hand to ruin the story by using pathos. And where did she introduce pathos? It was in the moment where the auntie goes, "Oh, your mother, she's this," and then, "Oh, it was the postpartum." Look, why? Why? What was the need? Because here, what you've done is you've tried to force, you've evoked, first elicited the emotion that was in. Why did you do that? You've given us enough amazing pieces that we've been doing the heavy lifting. You've been giving us the you've been giving us your visual storytelling. We've been doing the heavy lifting, piecing things together, and then you woke up, bam, ruined the entire story. Because now what this movie did, the entire third act, is introduce pathos and just throwing us into some emotional thing. It was annoying for me because I didn't feel anything. In fact, that was the moment I stopped feeling anything, because I felt like, rather, if they had concentrated on showing the cyclical pattern of hurts, a mother, even if the mother did not want the child, again, is also normal. Is also one of the reasons why women get postpartum depression and then whatever into psychosis. But this is something, this story is so surface because I think they were trying to focus on forcing out an emotion, trying to throw in that come and be sad thing into the third act, and then it just ruined the entire storytelling process. It evoked so much of that, and I was so sad because you've given our character, the main character Mariah, you've given her enough um you've shown us a lot of the pieces and how she's been hurt, and how she sees it's in the little thing where she's looking at people bond with their mothers, looking at strangers bond with their parent and child. It's in the way when she's trying to draw this thing that haunts her from her past, steps in. It's You've done all of this work, and at no point did you allow her unpack her hurts. Like I said, she grew up with a mentally unstable mother that also informs a lot of her actions as a child. Because I don't know about any other person. I didn't watch Mariah's action when she was a child and thought any of it was normal also. I thought she was imitating her mother. Her responses to things, her responses to hurt, her actions, what she chose to say, what she chose to do, it was also she was mimicking somebody who's also not mentally stable, which I don't think is the issue. I don't think is rather the point is the reality. She was probably only emoting what she has learned, and she's only learned from this person who is not exactly a normal person, right? So at no point did they allow Mariah unpack. Maybe even to Izzy some more. Nothing exactly to surface. Which I love a conversation with Izzy. Izzy doesn't press. She only gives. But at no point did they allow her to really unpack. I unpack rather. I thought that this story is one where she can unpack with either a mom or a therapist. But when you introduce pathos in a way that doesn't push the story, I mean, even though this is not literature, but this just seems the story just did not go anywhere because I can see now that you're trying to force some emotion out of me, and I'm like, no, I take a stand. It really wasn't working for me. She wasn't allowed to unpack her hurt. She wasn't just hurt by her mother, right? She was also hurt by her teacher. And this was even when she's trying to paint, it's not her mother's hurt that shows up. It's the hurt from her teacher being being hidden in a closet. This is the ugly thing that reads his head. Mentally unstable people can either love or unlove or whatever. I feel like if it was written by another writer, we could have felt sorry for both mother and daughter and still gotten our justice. Right? It's not even exactly justice. She could have even forgiven her mother, maybe because also she didn't know she was being hurt exactly. Maybe because she started growing up and then she started seeing things. Watching this movie for me was looking at all the ways where the characterization was good at first and then it just devolves into. I don't like to use the word sentimental because all movies are sentimental. It's just different in the way you choose to show it. It's in the, and that's why I'm using pathos. It's in the way you're trying to through how I should feel. You're leading me by the ear. You're leading me by the nose, and you're saying this is what I want you to see. It was, it is bad, and it's undid the entirety of this movie. Honestly, I was just watching even to the end, like, oh my daughter, I love you. Oh my god, I don't think it. I don't think a character that is dealing with mental. Again, I can't say I'm inferring because which is also good, which is how to really write a story. I really don't mind it because you've already established some things. I should make my inference. That's how to. You shouldn't really be telling me, but at the same time, now that you have said it, you've undone that characterization because now you've turned this character that is not exactly a normal person. You've turned that into a manipulative person because with that action, with that thinking, oh, I love my daughter that you've given her, when she'll say, I don't want you here, we don't even. I wish they could have both unpacked whatever it is in the short period where she gains sanity. She could have even unpacked it to the auntie in a way where the auntie just listens rather than, oh, look, your mom was this, trying to establish motivation for Mariah's mother. It's in the choices that our writer took in the third act that I do not like about this entire movie. And for me, it boils down to characterization, and because I'm really big on how characters are written, and this is not how to resolve your character's conflicts or give them motivation or give them high points or low points. This in the third act, this is just not what should be done. This is not how it should be done, and I think it's a great injustice because I don't think there are any of the characters that were useless. Even Mr. Doctor that I didn't like. I think that it was useful in the sense that there was a time myself and Eze said something along the line of to meet him on man. She's somebody who's a recluse, probably doesn't exactly meet people or have friends. There is a way in the storytelling that can help us that as she tries to come to terms with who she is or how she's been brought up. And it could also, I would have liked the way where it would have influenced her budding friendship with the doctor or how she navigates meeting men or meeting people for the first time. There are certain ways, without it being very much on the nose, there are certain ways to influence the story and give it a very perfect ending. And I don't even think much of it as being a story of forgiveness, but much of it as ending a cyclical hurt and then coming to realization that I'm not okay, but I choose to be okay after this, right? Anyways, if I should continue, I'm just going to be ranting about how I hate the writing. But anyway, that's it for me.
All right, Elizabeth's not a big fan of the writing.
Third act writing.
Third act writing. Sorry. I think there's some parts in the second act that got some hands, but understandable. All right. Vanessa.
Sure. So it's even good you called me because I'm dangerously about to. But dislikes. So more went in on what mainly is my issue with this, right? It's almost like, and I think not just more, but Cynthia as well, because it's okay. The thing about the sisterhood with Eze, I really enjoyed. Okay, no, let me start on a light dislike. Actually, let me build it up. Let me put it in a compliment sandwich, but the opposite. Okay, my main dislike, the first one, my unserious one. Who styled Mariah in the London? I want to know. I know that Elizabeth has said maybe there was something about her not fully knowing herself and how it switched to her constantly wearing Ankara in Nigeria and having her natural hair out. But that could have been done, but with better clothing and better style. That culotte, I don't know, is it a yellow culotte? That culotte that she was walking and strolling all about London in. I wanted to remove that culotte from her body. And then that wig. Kai. Honestly, see, if I die, it's not funny because I was watching it and I couldn't focus on much of what she was saying to Izzy. My eyes were drawing to the closure on that wig. And it just really threw me off. Not to mention the clogs. So that's my first dislike. The fashion in London, it didn't make. It's not funny. The fashion in Nigeria was fine, but the fashion in London, it didn't make. And me, I take the fashions personally. Now on to actual dislikes. The thing with Eze, because I really enjoyed seeing Eze on screen. You know, they introduced us to this person who is basically her judgment-free zone. And it's evident in that scene where she wets the bed from her nightmare, which I thought was really well done, by the way, you know. And you can see for Eze isn't okay. How will you wet my bed? You can see that there's a trusting relationship. But even if they didn't show us the beginning of how they became friends and all of that unnecessary stuff, but we can see that there's a trust. This is her chosen family, right? This is someone who she has trusted with the information of her deep trauma, which I'm sure she doesn't go around telling everybody. And she knows this is her safe zone, this is her judgment-free zone. Eze wakes up and holds her hands and tells her it's okay. And then you just drop that character by the wayside after one phone call in Nigeria. It's not connecting for me because this is someone who you talk through everything with. She's the first person she called when she had that moment in her studio painting. She's the one she goes to. So how does Eze stop being her go-to person while she's dealing with her stuff in Nigeria? Because, like Elizabeth said, that moment where Dr. Fola says, you can talk to me, and it's like, my friend, will you keep quiet? She has someone to talk to. She has someone to talk to, but we're not seeing her talk to that person. Why? And I don't know. I mean, they did a good job halfway with showing us that she had this support system, this chosen family, seen as the family that she was born into wasn't family at all, right? And then you just discard that. I don't know. It's just not working for me. I also feel like the thing with trying to give justice, and I know it's not justification, I don't know how to put it, but it's like that thing with Tinamba explaining why her mom was the way she was. I'm sorry, it didn't make, because how does postpartum depression make you sell your child, basically. I'm sorry, that's what you did. It just doesn't compute for me. And like that's the thing with the little bits and pieces that they gave us at the beginning. All of us were making the weirdest inferences. Like Elizabeth, made the inference of mental health issues and them not her mom not being completely all right and that rubbing off on her child, right? Me, I also made inferences of witch and Obanje. Maybe it's coming off of Juju stories, but there was a it's not there was a scene where her teacher says when he takes her in there, obviously I'm sorry to sexually assault her, but that he doesn't go through it because she goes off on him. That he says she's looking at him with those eyes of a witch. And her mom calls her a witch as well, you know? So I was like, okay, hold on. Oh. Baby girl is eating sand. And they have said she's a witch. Is she a witch? Or is it are we going to delve into a... So there was those little things. And it's like, okay, everyone is making inferences. And then you now come from nowhere and give us the most ridiculous, stupid answer. And talk. Because what was that scene with her mom having people tie her up? And what were those men doing to her? Were they beating... I enjoyed the little flashes because they sought to give us an inkling into her trauma without being too explicit. Yes, but you now give us a whole scene of full on disco to tell us that her mom was a model and her mom did this. No, honestly, I think those scenes could have been cut and we could have had scenes where, like Elizabeth said, her aunt actually just listened because I'm sorry, my first night in Nigeria telling me you knew. I'm even surprised that she did not go off on her auntie because me, I trust myself. Auntie would have collected something from me. Maybe not a physical slap, but something. Because how can you tell me that you knew? How can you tell me that you knew? And that's supposed to do what for me? Throughout her childhood, we never saw her aunt come and take your niece out of what was an abusive and harmful environment for a young child. You did shit all to protect this child, except tell your big sister, yeah, you can't do this again. Oh, send her to her father. What? What about the times pre the abuse? You could have taken pre the sexual assault, pre the rape. Why didn't you take her out of that situation before it got to that? You're saying you knew. Like, what's that supposed to do for me? Why am I here if you knew? It, I don't know. And then I'm sitting in the bed and you're trying to tell me to think of good memories and you're showing me pictures of this woman. Granted, there was a thing of her saying she loved how beautiful her mom was and all of that. So I guess there was that trying to tie into that. I don't know. It just didn't work for me because honestly, the emotion I felt throughout this was anger. Like there were people who were saying they cried. I don't know where I saw that, but I'm not crying or nothing. I was pissed. I was genuinely angry because I just felt like in some ways it was handled right, and in some others it wasn't. Like, which was my thing with the deed. I just didn't need to see that. I just think it wasn't necessary. If And I also think they shouldn't even have given us a reason behind the woman's actions. Maybe leave us wondering. I would have rather had that than a half-baked postpartum depression post grandpa's death, and maybe sprinkles of drug abuse here and there to be the reasoning for being such a horrific parent. And then you have the effrontery, the gall to tell me that to tell this human being that the mother loved her. How? How is that love? This is not a she loved you in her own way. Her own way was a messed up way. I'm sorry, that's not a way. I genuinely would not have done the deed thing. I would I would rather, like I said in my likes, I would rather it had ended in the scene with the hospital where she says, "I never wanted you, and I still don't want you." Because honestly, that's enough answer for anyone. Honestly. that's enough answer to get you to move on with your life. Because that's what that scene looked like. It looked like that's the answer you were giving me. I'm taking that answer and I'm moving on with my life because that's enough. We didn't need the she loved you. Honestly, they could have shown us her in London finishing the painting with the knowledge that her mother never wanted her. And so we wouldn't have gotten that yin and yang ridiculous mess of a painting. Beautiful, but like in the sense of that being something dedicated to her mother. No. I genuinely, when she came back into that room and I saw the dye on the painting, I thought she was gonna work everything around that painting and not hide the fact that she wanted her mother to die. Because honestly, that is a valid emotion to have. That is a valid emotion to have. And I think sometimes we make it seem like people's anger isn't valid. Like anger isn't a valid emotion. For someone who's been through such traumatic things at the hand of someone who was supposed to love them unconditionally, anger is more than enough of a valid emotion to have. And I wish they had just let her sit, because sometimes you need to sit in your anger. Like I'm with Mrs. C. Forgiveness isn't always the way to move forward. Sometimes you just need to be aware that some people just there's some people who I probably will never forgive, and that's completely all right. I'm all right. I'm not harboring any resentment. I have no anger. I'm just not gonna forgive you, and that's fine, and I can move on with my life. And I think that should have been a theme that could have been explored more. I wish she had worked her painting around the die and have that DIE in bold blood red smack dab in the middle of that painting. And it would have worked if she just came back home, and then we could have seen more of her friendship and her relationship with Eze in the last couple minutes of the film, and just deal in the fact that the birth family that she had didn't want her, but she had found one that wanted her and would always want her and care for her, and that's enough, versus a kumbaya, not kumbaya, even though the mom's dead. I genuinely I didn't care for the scene at the funeral. I didn't care for the rain pouring down her face, her screaming into the unknown. I forgive you. I didn't care for it. It didn't do. I just felt like it was not a good use of the rest of the time in the film. But yeah, that's me. Oh, I said this was going to be a compliment sandwich. What's the other non-rough thing that I didn't like about this? Oh, I forgot. So no compliment sandwich. It's like a naked sandwich. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Naked sandwich still received, I guess. Now more people are having issues with the reasons given for mother's actions, and honestly, I don't think that part was particularly well done. Well, the way I took it was, and this is an interpretation, and I would agree that it's not particularly well shown. In fact, I wouldn't say this is an interpretation. I would agree that yes, the way it's shown, it does feel like the auntie is saying, hey, no, it's depression, and it's, postpartum depression. It's all of these things put together. And honestly, it's backed up by mother going, I never wanted you in the first place. Like, I think it's a lot of things is what it's trying to say. But we didn't need to hear his depression and his postpartum depression, because the weight the film gives it feels like what she was saying there should be carefully considered, I think, is what mostly people are struggling with. I think there's a way in which the camera shoots that, and the way it's told, where the way Tinamba's character Auntie is saying all of those things feel like excuses that and she's making for her sister, but it wasn't shot that way. So it feels like it's giving, oh, no. Hey, these are the reasons why she was actually behaving like that. And I get I get people's discomfort with that.
I kind of did that when Tinamba's character was, doing those explanations. I interpreted it as her making those excuses for her sister.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is someone you love, this is your sister. You don't want to believe these awful things about them, so you make these excuses.
Yes.
That's how I interpreted it. But when we come around to her, finally forgiving her and having all of those moments about, oh yeah, she really loved me and all that stuff, that was where it kind of lost me. But I did think in that scene, I thought that's what we were going for. But then it wasn't, and that was a bit sad for me.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the filmmakers know, sure. But yes, I feel like if they were going for these are excuses, I think there's a way it could be shot. Usually these things are like either it's kind of off camera, the tone of her voice has changed, or she's saying it whilst in the middle of another conversation being had, or like Rayo is pushing back, so they're talking at the same time, and she's going, yes, post depression and whatever. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like, listen, this is why your mother is like this. Although I just don't. It's part of like a mess that I think could have been straightened out there. So.
It's kind of a side note, but from that conversation she was having with her aunt, I kind of got that, and I don't know if anyone else thought this, that when she, in quote, pimped her out at the store, I got that wasn't the first time. From the conversation she had with her aunt, I don't think it was the first time. The way her aunt went, that assault, after the assault at the store, that assault at the store was like the last straw. And when we flash back to her speaking to the aunt and the mom speaking years ago, the mom said, I can't keep doing this. Right? And when she's confronting the guy, she's like, I know, because a lot of blood, people kind of had the impression that's first time, but that is way too much blood, right? And the mom was like, you could have been more gentle, this one, that one, that one. And it just seemed like she was horrified because this guy had been so brutal with her daughter, right? It didn't seem like it was the first time she pimped her out. She said, I can't keep doing this, right? And then when someone's trying to go, well, after that assault at the store, it was the last straw for her. It was just, it made the resolution a lot worse for me.
All right. I don't know that. Okay, I can't remember. I think one of the things, aside the blood, I think also she said something to the guy along Solana Fort. Oh no, he says to her, also, you've come to your senses now, right? Which indicates to me like, oh, you finally agreed.
Yes,
so
that guy.
So it's, okay, yeah, but like even the way she gets her daughter involved, it's do you want to help? Do you want to help mommy? Which very vile, but I also think if she was going to do it, that's probably the way she would do it. I think that's everybody. Paraventure was on, but I think it's gone back. So, Mrs. C, do you? Oh, wait, Mel, have you said?
I haven't actually.
Okay, all right. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So I'll steal a page out of Vanessa's book and start with a simple, a light-hearted dislike, and it would be that her first night back in Nigeria, her auntie prepares a full plate. It's brimming with plate of teaching, and brings it to her, and she takes like 3 pieces and like pushes the plate away. I was personally offended. What do you mean? Chichi is not something you taste, it's something you indulge in. What are you saying? Anyway, so I disliked that. You better eat that chichi and eat it all. For my next dislike would be, as much as I like the cinematography, I really, there were of course, how do I say this? Anyway, as much as I like the cinematography, I thought that it was a lot more grounded than many parts of the film itself. I think the way that my mind describes it is that I thought that the cinematography knew what film it was shooting more than the film knew what it was. And I thought that there were many parts where like we were just not in sync, and it was very disappointing. For instance, I thought that there's a particular close-up shot that just failed, and it wasn't a. I don't think it was a cinematography problem. I thought, for instance, that it was an acting problem that just failed. Like at that moment, it makes sense, but the acting didn't carry it through. It reminds me of Country Hard, where Tope Tedela's character has been kicked out by his mother, and she slams the door in his face, and there's a close up, but it's not effective because the acting isn't as strong to convey what needed to be conveyed in that moment. I thought that we had almost an exact replica of that. Here, there's a close up of Rio's face when she's seeing something. I can't even remember what she was saying. I can remember the close up, but I can't even remember what she was saying. Because I thought that at that point, when the acting should have been the strongest, and maybe this is a problem with directing yourself. You can't see that you're not convinced. I don't know. But at that point when the acting should have been the strongest, I thought that it was a waste of a close up. So that was disappointing, and it really I don't know how to describe it. I don't think that I watch movies looking for moments like that, but the moment that that came on, it was just like a sinking in my heart, just like, oh, anyway. So there were the parts of the movie that felt out of sync with the cinematography. The cinematography felt a lot more grounded than the film itself. Something I could for instance, another example would be the I guess the motif of the sand pouring. It's such a beautiful shot, isn't it? It's really, really beautiful. But story-wise, that's not an impactful moment at all. It's she's not pouring it for some philosophical abstract reason. It's a very practical reason. It happens once, by the way. She pours it once. And it's a very practical reason. She puts it in her mouth to spit it back at this person who's trying to hurt her. It happens one time, but it's such a beautiful shot that keeps coming back and just feels like one of those opportunities where the story fails to capture powerful moments, but the cinematography does. Another one I think would be her getting locked up in the box, the way that the camera captures her just like banging and trying to be let out. There's this story there about her spending the rest of her life feeling trapped in a box, feeling trapped in this surrounding of anger and hurt and wanting to break free because she does have like a healing at the end, and I'm taking control of my life, right? Feeling trapped in as somebody else takes the wheels of her life. There's a story there, but the film story fails to capture that, but the cinematography does. It's such a strange thing. I think that's what that's what best defines my relationship with this film, that it feels strange that the cinematography does a much better job of grasping the story than the story does itself. Could I be projecting? Maybe. I haven't sat down to think about it too much though, but I thought that like poignant moments come across as poignant because of the cinematography, not because of the story itself. And I could tell it just felt a little out of sync. What else? That's not how depression works. I have no idea what was going on with the mother. It felt a bit psychotic to me. But Cynthia is like, we have gone way past all of that. This is a crime at this point. The way that she was behaving certain times felt like she was in a withdrawal phase or like some proper drugs, not antidepressant. I don't think antidepressants cause withdrawals like that, and not in that way. It felt like she was in withdrawal phase. I don't know, the way that movies portrayed withdrawal phase for like Coke or something, like you need your fix now, right? But we never see her get any fix. So it's so confusing. I thought also just as an extension of that, the movie really, really just overburdens itself with. I thought that it had a solid story already. This girl goes back home to try to I guess find closure with her mother, with her very complicated relationship with her mother. That's the story by itself. It didn't need the added story of, oh, your mom was like this because she was depressed. Because I'm looking at this woman and she's not depressed. She's a criminal, as Cynthia had said. Or it's like, oh, something, her father died. Why, what? Why are we here? It also tries to give her like love stories. The thing with the doctor, the thing with talks. It's just, why are you burdening? Why are you distracting the story from just being effective and like super tight? And I think it's very obvious because a lot of these never get resolved. We never resolve her depression. Did she get a diagnosis? Did that teach Ryo to pay attention to her mental health and try to get like a therapist? Nothing. It's just a sentence that happened out of her auntie's mouth. The thing with the doctor as well, why are you as a doctor looking at your patient's daughter? Her mom is in a very, very critical condition, and you're thinking, you know what you need in your life? A date. What? But also because it's super unethical. Like you finished your date with her the night before, and you go straight to treating her mother. What? It's just all of those things. Who the fuck is top? And why did we have about 2 minutes of her texting him randomly? What was that? And who is he? We also get dialogue about him too. I just remembered from her friend. Her friend is like, "Oh, you're avoiding talks." Who is he? It's so burdened. When it already had a simple, effective story that it could have built on rather than deviate from. So I didn't like that. I thought also that because it started to veer into all of these territories that it didn't take our time to flesh out. Like Vanessa said, in many cases it felt too much like an excuse. And I'm hoping that that's the direct opposite of what the filmmakers want. You never want to do a story like this with such huge implications and try to excuse the perpetrators. That was very uncomfortable to sit through. Most times I was just like shutting my brain and just like, I'm hoping this is just the translation issue. But honestly, is it surprising if you're not focusing on your story, then you're going to end up telling stories you didn't intend to tell. Again, assuming this is not a story they intended to tell. What's the final dislike that I have? The final dislike that I have is that I thought that the story could do with a little more depth. That's it really. It's everything that I said about the cinematography, grasping the story, and the story itself not just could have been fixed by the story just like sitting with itself and just really working out some of those kinks, giving Ryo a lot more motivation, honestly. And also like what it's so strange. I keep thinking of the scene with her hands tied behind her back, and it's just a group of men, and her mother is there. It's not like her mother is not there. Her mother is there. It's happening in her presence. Um, that's way too intentional to be like, oh, she was depressed. I what? Very confusing. Very, very confusing, the story itself. I wish it had sat. Vanessa and Cynthia have already talked about just how the story feels at fleshing out the community that it already starts with. Like, the way that her auntie takes care of her, it's like, oh, that's community. This could have been a safe place. She also apologizes on behalf of her mother. She's like, wow, like she gets that the mother is never going to apologize, so she apologizes on her behalf. She says, and she internalizes it like it's we failed you, right? The sisterhood that she has with her friend, it's such a powerful thing to see on TV. But it's also just such a necessary and powerful thing that happens in real life. If you're ever in such a shitty situation, you want to have people around you that don't need you to explain yourself to them. They don't need you to prove yourself. That are just willing to accept you and love you in your situation, right? The film abandons all of that. It abandons the community that the auntie provides very early on, because the auntie is not a part of her trauma, and makes no sense, because when her mother does the thing that is despicable, she runs to her. She's like, so access was there. This was not an access problem. This was not a you were in another state, I couldn't reach you problem. So how come such a grounded figure was a part of her mother's life but couldn't have been a part of her life? The way that she's protective of her now, how is that not a thing that we see earlier on? How is it that when her mother's going through all of these things, like, we don't see the end till the absolute end? How is it that at the end, again, she's going through such a pivotal moment in her life? Maybe she's been mentally preparing for this her entire life. And her best friend, who's been there for her, isn't, and she also just doesn't see her when she gets back to this. She never shows up again. Like, what is going on there? Anyway, I think the story could have sat with itself and developed a little bit more depth. Those are my dislikes. Thank
All right, no, thanks, Mel. Okay, Mrs. C.
I think I've said all my bads, to be honest.
Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with some minor quips, and then I can get into some of the things. I thought the sound, even though it was good at most parts, and it's probably better than the average Nollywood film sound-wise. I think hospital-wise, I almost got superstar vibes, but not quite as bad, because you could hear a lot of talking in the background and chit-chatter. Again, I said I wasn't going to watch Nollywood films with headphones, but alas, sometimes it is what it is. So I did notice that, and that wasn't the best. I thought there were a couple of editing mishaps. I wouldn't have mentioned it if it was the odd thing, but I think it happened maybe 3 or 4 times within where it just felt jarring. I remember probably the worst part was version of this is after, it's when Tina and Baba and Segilola are speaking to each other, and there is after that postpartum depression speak, there's a weird cut. It's like Tina starts saying something and it cuts in the middle of a sentence, which is a little odd. But there were just a couple of other jarring ones. There was one with Efra as well. But yeah, Mom. So the main things now, the story. All right, okay. The story is the one that I felt I wasn't. People have mentioned aspects of what, like they didn't think it felt at some point it was excusing it. I don't actually feel the excusing part. Or maybe with that exception of the anti, and I want to believe that's just not well done, because for me, that part of Segilola, sorry, I should just call her Raya. That part of Raya kissing her mom on the deathbed after her mom has just been very rude to her, that is like there's, you can't explain that away other than I don't need you to forgive me. This is it. I'm done. I feel like everything past that is a bonus, and that's fine. That's fine for me. I accept that. The problem with, and I guess some people have issues um with her mother's characterization, essentially. And I do, but in a different place. So people are thinking, well, uh, depression and addiction and all of this isn't enough to. It's like, first, I don't know. People could be right on that. I haven't studied depression or any of these things. I don't know how they manifest themselves in an area. Even I think people saying what they're saying could still have a point if typically this is not how depression manifests itself, and the film doesn't go on to say why depression is particularly manifesting itself in this way. But I don't even know whether this is an abnormality for somebody who suffering from depression or postpartum depression years later. I don't know. But like they seemed like there were a couple of things going on with the mother, certainly. There's certainly a time where, like, I think Mel mentioned, like, she seems like she's going through withdrawal. And for me, that was, oh, this woman is an addict who's going through some sort of, I didn't think it was some sort of going through a withdrawal. No, I didn't think it was antidepressant, because I don't think, although she said to her, to Raya, to little Raya, like, hey, do you want to make mommy okay? Like, I don't think she's doing that because she's trying to help herself get some antidepressants. We see the way, that wasn't my favorite part, to be honest. The way she takes the drugs when she gets them feels like she's it doesn't seem like that's what any doctor has prescribed. It's just like just chewing it for a start. It just seemed what's the word when you are overdoing whatever. It just seems she was overdoing any proper prescription. Like it just didn't seem like she was taking prescriptions, is what I'm trying to say. So I definitely felt like there was something off with that. The problem, I think, and it might even help and lean into some of the issues other people are having, is some people are saying, like, it might have been better if we didn't hear anything at all about the mother's, why she was doing it. And I don't mind that, because, like, I think The Dark Knight, one of my favorite movies, does this thing where you hear a couple of reasons why the Joker is the way he is, but they're contradicting, so you know that it's bullshit, right? So you know not to take it seriously, because we don't know what's made this man. He goes, you want to know how I got these scars? And he says one thing the first time, and the second time he just tells you a completely different story. Now, one of the things that I think I would have liked to see is how how Raya's mother was with Raya outside times of abuse, right? I didn't see that relationship, so it almost feels like this woman is just perpetually an evil monster. And if the picture we're trying to paint is that she's a human. She can still be like horrible and evil, which I think the film does show. But like, if we want us to realize that all these things about either depression or drugs or all of that, let's have some moments outside of. I think there was one where they were folding clothes or something, and they were just laughing, and that looked like an advert for, I don't know. It looked like an ad for something, like where people are just happy. It was a little too, but like just some nice memories. Like sometimes when I have nice memories of both people who are either physically with me or otherwise, they're not often memories of, oh, just ha 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 ha. They're just like, hey, this is how you do this, and it's like sometimes it's just teaching me how to do a certain thing. Maybe it's just showing me the ropes. Maybe it's something we did that was stupid together. It doesn't just have to be slow motion. Let's smile, that kind of thing. But like, I wish if I had seen versions of the mother just interacting. I'm not with Raya. I think what we'd have gotten is more characterization of, okay, maybe she was really completely off her mind because look, she's really nice to her these times, and then these other times she's completely lost her mind. Because like, even some people have been struggling to see why did you why didn't you run to your auntie? It's like, well, it's a legit question to ask now, because we don't even know whether her mother was ever kind to her, ever nurtured her, or ever gave her some sort of like the care. We know she loves her, and we don't know if that love. And some people I don't know, some people struggle to see why Raya loves her mom, and is it just the biological thing, or is there something else? Did she show her some other side that was caring? Did she take care of certain needs? If there was just something else other than Raya's mom is evil reincarnated, I think that would have helped that characterization of, help us understand. I think I get the general gist of what was going on, and I'm still okay. That's summary things. Yeah. I think that's about. Let me see. Let me check my notes. Memories, hospital background sound, editing. Okay, death and rebirth. Relationship. Okay, yeah. So I think that's my main qualms, is that Rose's relationship with Raya. I wish it was more fleshed out. I think that's where Mel was talking about with depth.
Just as a side note, I feel like even for just regular schmegular abuse, right, is never just awful.
Yes.
Yeah, so whether or not she was on drugs, she was off her rocker, or just a regular schmegular abusive mother, there would have been, or there should have been, moments of her being normal, because it's never just abuse. And it was just leading to that. I remember thinking, when she was trying to chase her from the hospital bed and she said, "Okomi," we've never seen her show her any terms of endearment, right? And it's not in that last moment where she would call her Okomi. Terms of endearment don't come out of nowhere. You don't just, after 30 odd years, start calling somebody you've known for that long Okomi. It just doesn't. It seemed very out of place, but a way to show, oh no, she does actually love her. And she could love her in a weird little way without bringing in terms of endearments that didn't work. It just felt like ways of humanizing her that I didn't need. And I'm perfectly fine with her being humanized, just not in...
Well, I think in that aspect, you don't feel like it's earned. Like,
I don't feel like it's earned.
So,
yes,
like, if we had moments where she had,
called her that
and like that, yes,
because all she kept asking was, "Did you love me?" Like, you could never say the words, right? And for somebody who was so abusive to her, I understand craving your mother's love, your mother's approval, but I feel like it would have been so much more of a thing if she'd had those moments where they were tender and where she called her Okomi, and then she had all these other moments. Like somebody who is, who's loving and loving to you, and when she goes, "Do you want to help mommy? Help mommy feel better?" Yeah, of course I want to help mommy feel better, right? It's just, there were things missing from that made some things so on her.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, I think one of the aspects that they do aside that slow motion bit, I think I can remember there's a slow motion part. I think it's a flash. It has to be a flashback, don't it? Slow motion part of little of little Raya and Rose, sort of like being happy, generic happiness. Reminds me of Collision Course, where Daniel and Bam Bam are in the car, and I just know the direction was, "Hey, you're happy, just be happy," and you see them just waving their arms, going, "Yay, I'm happy." It's like what? Okay, all right. Anyway, but I aside that one, and I think the part where her daughter, she's coming to somewhat fight for her daughter, but like that's not enough.
It doesn't.
That's
Like,
yeah, that yeah, that doesn't count as yeah. That, I mean, like, I don't mind that as a scene, but I'm saying that doesn't count as this is one of those. But yeah, that's one of my thing. Yeah, so like my thing isn't quite. My thing isn't excuse. I don't think it did that. I just don't think it showed Rose as rounded enough for for the for the direction I think it went in at the end. All right. So that's my one. All right. So shall we do summaries? Give a quick summaries of what we thought. Fida, do you want to start with your summary?
All right. I loved that the main character was the director, writer, etc., in this film, because that's a great feat. So, and I liked a lot of the shots, the cinematography, the outfits of Raya and her friend. I liked the friend as well and her look. I did not like how the story of abuse developed. I do not believe there was love in that dynamic. So for me, it wasn't a befitting or satisfying ending in terms of justice for such severe trauma, nor of a healing journey that was outside of the closure with her mother. I didn't like the need for the journey to be around that, especially when her mother was nasty to the very end. Would have also loved to see more of the dynamic between her and her friend. So I wouldn't recommend it because of my dislikes. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Fida. Cynthia?
Oh, sorry, I was typing. Yeah. So, I liked the movie. Like, I liked some parts of the movie. I saw all the efforts they put in. Like I said, a lot of time with the new Nollywood, you get confused when you are in the past and you're in the present. So I love how detailed they were. Um, I saw the intentions, or I knew what they were going for, and for most part of it, I did appreciate it. I just wished we saw more of the friendship with her and Eze, because Eze was like my favorite. I just wish we saw more of the friendship with her and Eze. We didn't need a lot of things like, well, whatever was going to happen between her and Dr. Fola, what was going on there. I just wished if they weren't going to have a good conclusion on what was wrong with the mother, they shouldn't have tried to come up with grandpa's death or postpartum depression. I would have been okay if I just kept wondering and wondering and wondering. Yeah, so in all, it was a good movie. It has been better than a lot of big production movies we have seen this year. So will I recommend it? Yes, I will recommend it, but I might have to say that you might get angry when you hear postpartum depression. But yeah, you might get angry when you have postpartum depression at that point. But yeah, I would recommend it.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. Mel. Mel, are you?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, I am. So my summary is that it was a solid outing, like Cynthia said. Much more solid than a lot of the films we've seen this year and talked about in Film Club. Um, I thought that the cinematography was very solid. I thought that the story needed a little more depth, needed a little more working on. I think just in general, the way that I think about it is that it's a beautiful film, but I'm unable to connect the beauty of the film to its story. Yeah, so that's my summary.
All right, thanks, Mel. Vanessa.
Oh, was beautifully shot. If you want to see some really good camera work, it was really beautifully shot. There were some really good elements to it. It let down in others with regards to the story, but still worth watching because honestly, some of the offerings from Nollywood not so great. This is a young filmmaker who did a pretty good job, so why not watch it?
All right, thanks, Vanessa. Elizabeth.
Hi, so my summary. Okay. I really enjoyed, well, I love the visual storytelling of the first two acts of this movie. I love the intentionalities of the shots, the production design, the way the story was woven together in allowing us piece the pieces together. I love I love all of that. My major dislike is in the third act and the use of pathos to drive our characters' motivation. That is Mariah's mother's. I felt like the story fell apart from there. I feel like the story fell apart in that moment. And I really didn't enjoy the way it ended because I felt like it was doing it was struggling to draw to elicit sadness from me with the oh my the mother is this, and then the use waiting of exposition from the mother sister to explain that I felt was unfair to the internationality that I've seen in the first two acts. I felt was very unfair. I didn't like the direction it decided to go with the forgiveness because personally I felt like the central theme was putting an end to cyclical hurt, and I would have loved to see Mariah deal with the carrying on of our trauma. That is maybe onboarding it with somebody else, see her unpack her hurt, because it was not just her mother, she was also hurt by she was hurt by situations where she was put in. I would have felt like, so even if it wasn't exactly seeing a therapist, I wouldn't have minded her onboarding to Eze some more, or to her opening up carefully, and maybe even in ways where she deals with meeting new people like the doctor or whatever. So that's it for me. I really, like I said, this is a good watch, maybe even story study. I mean, character study for the first two acts. Just quite unfortunate how the movie tend to resolve all the conflicts and show motivations for Madraya's mom's character. I would partially, what's it called? I'll partially ask recommend it because I mean maybe people like that sort of heavy exposition used to tug the heartstrings towards the end. It's really just not for me. I felt was too on the nose, too heavy on the intention to lead in, and the pathos was unnecessary. That's it for me. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Mrs. C, what did you think?
I think um like I mentioned when I was stating my good, I think it's quite hard to give a good performance while directing and wearing all these hats. And I think Segilola did really well with managing that. It was nice to look at. I did like the colors. I liked the good part of the story, and I'm doing what I think was it Mel did with this film. What's it called again? Kind of what it's called, where I'm making my own narrative and ignoring the parts of the movie that I didn't, the direction the story took in the end, and taking it away from being a story of forgiveness and just a story of someone breaking the cycle, right? Just finding themselves and just trying to figure things out. Yeah, I think that was about it. I think I would recommend it with caveats. I would recommend it with caveats. I didn't. Yeah. I feel like there was a lot to like there, and it was just the resolution was a bit so for me. I didn't like the "oh, she loved me after all" take on it. I didn't, but like I'm gonna say again, I did think it was quite nicely shown. The "oh yeah, she did love me." I thought it was nicely shown, but I didn't like that they showed it.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So for me, like I could see this as one of, bar some sound, some of the sound issues I mentioned, and um, maybe just one or two performances. No, one or two stretches here and there. I could see this like being like a Hollywood made film that I didn't that didn't that had an aspect that didn't click with me, because like it's just so professionally shot. The score is really nice. It's atypical of anything you usually hear in Nollywood. So in the filmmaking aspect, aside from what the way the story chooses to go, the non-linear parts, there's so much to commend. So I'm interested in to see what happens with a story that isn't as emotionally this what's the word, emotionally, you guys can fill in the blanks.
Heavy.
Yeah, no, just like sort of like the fact that it's almost likely to trigger some feelings, right? It's you know, it's easy to feel for somebody who has been um, really abused beyond belief, like in this aspect, right? Like it's easy to evoke emotions, like it's like out of people through this kind of things, right? So um, I'm not saying that's all it did, obviously, because I just praised the filmmaking, but I'm just interested to see in the direction it goes, because like I said, the filmmaking of this I like a lot of the choices that were made. There is a couple of things with some sound issues, some lapel mic packs through some clothing, some stuff like that. If not, like I could have been watching like a Black American. Some of the score reminded me of If Bill Street, Bill Street. Um, so there were so many nice parts, but yeah, my issue is I think just the way that third act ties down. It just feels a little clunky to me. It doesn't. That relationship between her mother and her just doesn't seem fleshed out enough, and it feels convenient, and it feels like there's too much movie magic there for me. Where a lot of the others, I thought a lot of the other things I really enjoyed and liked. But yes, kudos to the filmmaking. I love the filmmaking. I probably would tighten that side of the script, that side of the relationship. That's what would have done it for me. But yeah, but like if our filmmakers were making films that could be this competent. I use competence now, like at least in in the other filmmaking aspects. I think we would be in a better place. So yeah.
Also the conversation, right? Like the conversation we've been having about it. It's better than a lot of the conversation we've had to have about a lot of this year's releases. So yeah.
All right. Okay. So next week we are doing we're talking about election Oba, which that's a big one from that somehow didn't make the NOSC's selection to be submitted as a travesty. I can't believe it. I haven't seen. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see how much the NOSC fucked up. See how much they messed up. We'll see, or we're going to see, like, like, of course they didn't send this film. Of course they didn't. I'm not gonna lie. Election clause that beard isn't putting me in the right department. But we'll see. We don't know. It could be great. It could be fantastic. So join us next week, same time. It'll be 6:00 West African time. And we'll discuss about that. But thanks for everybody who came. Thanks for everyone who listened. Shout out to Segilola in the audience. Thanks for listening to some of it. You came through during the bad, which
do not recommend.
It's always a weird place to start. But anybody who came in a little late as well can just listen to the recording. But thanks for coming out. Thanks for having the discussion. I enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It's good to actually talk about themes and like the story, other than why did this person even bother doing this. So, but thank you so much, guys. We'll speak next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at IrokoCritic and join us every Sunday, 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.